Welcome to Murder in the Air Mystery Theater. I'm your host, Laurie Fagen. In this podcast series, I'll interview authors who will then read their mystery, suspense, or thriller short stories or a chapter from their published books. In addition, sprinkled throughout the coming weeks, the podcast will feature radio theater style sections from the audiobooks for my 3 crime fiction novels. Our guest today is Dr. Millicent Eidson from Vermont, who, among other subjects, writes MICROBIAL MYSTERIES about the germs that animals give to people. Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Millie.
Thanks so much, Laurie. It's great to talk about my writing, which is a twist on the more traditional murder or crime mysteries.
It is indeed, and we will get into that. So, as a public health faculty member in New York and Vermont, was that how you started to write about microbials or these dangerous invisible organisms?
That's right. All my stories are informed by my own career as a veterinarian working in public health with the Centers for Disease Control, several state health departments, and several universities. So in my writing, I try to share the excitement, the passion, and frustrations of a world that's invisible to most people. And these diseases from animals, which are called zoonoses, they actually make up most of the emerging and newly recognized diseases like COVID, and they also pose a bioterrorist threat like we found with the anthrax letters.
So it sounds like you have a lot of good material there, right, for mysteries?
That's true. There's hundreds of these different diseases, and for my novels, I'm doing an alphabetical series A through Z, like Sue Grafton. So each one will have a main disease as a focus. But then in my short stories, and I also get in some of the others.
So in your A to Z, are the letters associated with the microbial or the animal?
The microbial. So,
okay.
For instance, the first book is called Anthracis. That's the official name for anthrax. And the next one is called Borrelia, which are the organisms like Lyme disease that are spread by ticks and lice. And the third one, the C novel, is Corona, which just came out in August.
Very interesting. And in your medical mysteries, you've created the MayaVerse, an entire world after your primary protagonist, CDC veterinarian Maya Maguire. Describe Maya and her world.
Maya is inspired by and in honor of my daughter, who was born in China. And so Maya, like my daughter, being born overseas and then being adopted by a Caucasian family, finds herself a fish out of water. So she was raised by the Maguire family, an Irish heritage family in Flagstaff and Denver. And she's a statistics nerd. She's several years younger than other CDC medical detectives. She struggles with anxiety and panic since a childhood accident, but she never gives up. And she forms warm bonds with her public health colleagues. So the stories meld medical thrillers with women's fiction, learning about Maya's journey as she grows up and comes into her own, and also romantic suspense.
Well, good for you. That sounds like a great combination. And how was it to kind of work in your daughter? I bet you kind of think of her then every time you're writing little segments, right?
Yeah, it's fun. But of course, she's one of my first readers, and she's the same age as Maya, in her mid to late 20s, and so she gives me her opinion on everything and keeps me grounded in young women these days. So it's fun too. There just really aren't that many mystery protagonists that are Asian. In fact, Tess Gerritsen, of course, is a famous medical thriller author, wrote Rizzoli and Isles, first the books and then, the TV series. And I saw an interview with her, and she said she's Chinese. And when she started out, her editors insisted that her protagonists all be white or Caucasian because people weren't interested in Asian protagonists, and that she'd have, better sales if she wrote white characters. So I kind of was stubborn. I thought, I want to have somebody like my daughter be the lead in a book. So
That's great. That's great. Well, and it's good that she can be a reader and probably say, no, Mom, I wouldn't say that, but I might say this. So in addition to these alphabetical novels that you've started, you've written 10 medical thriller short stories. And I know you've done a lot of research with the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the state health departments in New Mexico and New York. Of course, with the recent pandemic, the CDC was top news, every day. Talk about some of the research that you had to go through to get all your information.
Sure. I add to my own experiences in public health by using extensive scientific research. So the stories are all accurate in terms of the science. Now, some authors craft medical thrillers which are more science fiction oriented, set in the future with imaginary disease threats. But the MayaVerse is firmly in the current day, in the current world. But it's an alternate universe populated by fictional characters, but the science is all accurate.
So we can learn a lot about some of these diseases and how they affect people then through that, to know that they are actual diseases then.
Yes, exactly. That's my goal.
I think that's a great idea. Okay, you are the secretary for the Burlington Writers Workshop in Vermont. You're a member of the Alliance of Independent Authors, and you're also a member of the Grand Canyon and Tucson Sisters in Crime. So let's talk a little bit about writing. What is your writing process like, and what is your best time to write?
Well, for me, I'm definitely a morning person. So I like getting up around dawn and settling down with Maya Maguire at my computer. And my computer looks out over beautiful Lake Champlain here in Burlington, Vermont. And I'm what's called a seat of the pants or discovery writer. And so I spend time with my characters, getting surprised, delighted, and sometimes shocked by their loves and their conflicts. And then in the afternoons and the evenings, I focus on the business side, editing and workshopping.
I see. That's a great way to do it. What would you say is the most surprising thing you've discovered about writing?
About how hard it is to merge the real science with the fictional world. It's a tough balance, and luckily the workshops that I'm involved with help me achieve that balance when I get feedback. But trying to balance the fascinating facts with the immersive emotions and complex themes that I address, like immigration and climate change. So trying to balance all those elements. It was particularly difficult with my third novel, Corona, because, of course, we all lived through that. And so we all have more personal experience with that disease than we might with some of the others. So the lives of Maya Maguire and her colleagues and her family had to mesh with the timeline and the experiences of what we've all experienced. So I literally had to be checking what was happening in the news and in the world, every single day in the fictional MayaVerse. But to be compelling, Maya's story also needed to be original, not just, rehash what we've already experienced. So it emphasizes particularly animal aspects of COVID that may not be very familiar to most people. And it was also great to have Maya reconnect with her heritage in China, of course, because of its connection with Corona. So
that's right. What a great connection there. So if you are doing A to Z, obviously you have at least 26 diseases there. Would you ever make up one, do you think, to have something fictional?
I don't think so. That's just kind of not what I'm into. I'll let other authors do that. But I think the real diseases are incredibly exciting. So I'll stick with them.
And it sounds like you have plenty to choose from then, right?
That's true.
Okay,
yep.
Very good. So what are you working on next?
So right now I'm crafting my fourth alphabetical novel. So it's the D letter, which is dengue virus. And a lot of people may have heard about malaria popping up recently in Florida and Texas. And malaria and dengue have a lot in common. They're both mosquito-borne diseases. And like a lot of these diseases, the risk of them is increasing with climate change because both the organisms themselves and the diseases that are vector-borne, so are spread by something like a mosquito or a tick or something like that, those vectors also like the warmer climate. So it's fascinating to work in that aspect with the dengue virus that I'm working on now.
Interesting. Yes, it will be. But looking forward to reading that as well. Today, you're going to read a novel prequel called El Chinche, which means bedbug. El Chinche received a writing award in 2020 from the Arizona Mystery Writers.
El Chinche. This story is modified from a 2021 release in Danse Macabre. It is a novel prequel introducing two key mentors for the primary protagonist in the novels. El Chinche received an award in 2020 from the Arizona Mystery Writers. Nogales, Mexico, Tuesday, October 12, 1993. Feathery feet and a crepitous body slide across my left eyelid. My palm scrapes blue eyeshadow to the creamy pillowcase, plus an inch-long black and gold psychedelic bug which scurries away on jointed legs. A Halloween horror 2 weeks early. Blurry vision of the arresting creatures, a clue my debauched night was a disaster. Its larger cousin creeps along my left thigh. While thrusting my leg in the air to dislodge it, I bump the naked backside of the man next to me. He's pudgy, white, with hairy limbs and a smooth back. A sledgehammer pounds from my eyes to the nape of my neck. Trapped against the copper-hued wall, I slither across him, bearskin rubbing as my stomach lurches. After tripping over the rug, I crawl into the mosaic bathroom and lose all those glorious salt-rimmed margaritas. Wyma shrimp, I taste those coming back up too. As I crouch on the blue and white flowered tiles, fingers stroke my short hair. My head arches up, and I recognize him. "You okay?" His bulging brown eyes are concerned, but meander in his typical distracted and disinterested way. Under the dark hair, too much minutia dances through his prodigious brain. I'm sure he really cares. "Fred, can you help me up?" After he reaches to grip my arm, I lean over the terracotta sink and rinse the yellow-green vial away. "Get yourself together," the deep voice barks from the bed as he tugs on blue boxers and rumpled tan pants. "We're late for the lead poisoning talk." For him, the Tuesday morning session of the Regional Border Health meeting is more urgent than washing up. We'll learn about maquiladoras, Mexican factories with insufficient pollution control, but I'm not showing up without a shower. He's gone when I towel off from the tepid but reviving spray. I step into a satin skirt and pull on a matching blazer. Stand out in a crowd, that's my modus operandi. Although we didn't make the best decisions last night, I was smart enough to have our reunion sex in my hotel room, not his. A quick blast from the hairdryer on my mousy brown locks and I'm ready. After riding the creaking elevator down to the first floor, at the front desk I call out, "Buenos dias, ¿cómo estás?" to La Chica Bonita, her head crowned by glossy black braids woven with white silk ribbon. As I smile, the wrinkles around my eyes reflect almost 30 years of hot Texas sun. She replies, "Muy bien, ¿y tú?" She has a decade before men start seeing right through her. I'm not late. Dr. Gonzalez, the Arizona State epidemiologist, hobnobs in the ballroom with his Sonoran counterpart. My position as a public health physician started 3 months ago when I finished the Baylor Family Medicine residency. It's an inspiring time. President Clinton appointed the first African-American director of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The annual neighbor state gathering is on the Mexican side this year. Until the difficult dawn, I embraced my first visit to Nogales, Sonora. The temperature hit 80 yesterday, and music spilled out of Las Cantinas when we strolled for lunch and dinner. Our hosts are relaxed, gregarious, and gracious. The schedule allows time to shop for artesanías. I've a yen for huichol yarn paintings. Last month, the highlight of the Puerto Vallarta rabies meeting was the night excursion to capture vampires as they darted in to suck blood from the legs of cattle. Jalisco veterinarians pried the bats out of fence nets and wiped warfarin on their backs. In the roost, bats rub the paste on their relatives and they bleed out, dying before they can spread rabies. Sounds barbaric, but it reduces vampires feeding on the toes of sleeping people who suffer horrific foaming at the mouth death. By the time translators don their headsets and everyone settles down, Fred plops on the empty seat beside me. He's in his public house service dress blues, went to his room to change. At the mid-morning break, he seizes my forearm, steering me away from the snacks and posters. Nancy, I don't regret getting carried away after the banquet. 7 years since we were together, but I never stopped thinking about you. We're not going to speak here. I slap his hand aside. Dr. Gonzalez frowns when he sees me. Am I that hungover? He might suspect my dalliance due to our raucous toasting and laughing and singing with the mariachis. Staying glued to the boss's side throughout the remaining presentations is the right decision. Fred can do whatever he needs to by himself to slake his thirst. Nogales, Mexico, Friday, October 15th, 1993. Measles. Dr. Fred Grinwald, CDC Epidemic Intelligence Service Officer. Final listing on the Friday schedule. After his presentation and questions, he corners me, and I lead him to the elevator. He's taller and heavier. I can't force him to come, but he follows like a pining puppy. Probably shouldn't boss around an officer, but I'm not ceding control again. Inside my antiquated hotel room, I perch on one of the eco-poly chairs and gesture for him to do the same. No evidence remains of our carnal tryst. A reviving breeze ruffles white lace curtains, and the enticing warm aroma of corn tortillas floats in. We were infatuated, nuts about each other during your last semester in Texas, I acknowledge with a faint smile. Then I take charge. Rigid posture, tanned face mask, toneless voice. But you graduated and headed to Albuquerque for medical school. You didn't contact me. Now you're the EIS officer assigned to the New Mexico Health Department. Putting a coda to the recollection, I salute. Congratulations. He bobs his head, vibrating the double chin. Although he's gained weight since we were lovers at Baylor, his IQ and a few other talents still attract me. Medical training was important to both of us. He pushes the black-framed glasses higher on his bulbous nose. We're working close by. Can we repeat Monday night, sometime? Only a when it's convenient sort of thing. My face says no way, Jose. I already need to take confession and won't rewrite my life for him. Phoenix is fabulous, including Saturday Camelback mountain climbs at dawn. As a native Texan, Arizona's dry heat doesn't faze me. I shift position while changing the topic. When we woke up Tuesday, I found ginormous, gross insects on my eyelid and thigh. Both areas itch, and I'm woozy, even with cooler temps today. His full lips twist. My residency was preventive medicine, not clinical practice. Thick, short fingers trace my eyelids. Your left one is inflamed. Want an assessment of your leg? Not necessary. Checking that myself. No touching there now that I'm sober in my right mind. Another vivid insect scampers across the floor, heading for a crack in the whitewashed bathroom wall. Hey, that's it. He drops a plastic cup over the bug. My hero. He acknowledges the compliment with a thin smile and stuffs tissues over the insect. Is this what you saw before? After my nod, he stomps for the door. The manager needs to hear about this. Triatamino el Chinche. The 40-something male summoned by the receptionist ducks his head. Lo siento, doctora. Fred rubs his pale, balding forehead. Chinche is used for bedbugs, which are much smaller. This might be similar, sucks blood while you sleep. Like a vampire bat. But I'm lucky, insects don't transmit rabies. My skin starts to tingle. Creepy to envision it biting me, especially on my eyelid. Tape this up so it won't escape, Fred directs the manager. I'm not used to him being so organized. When the bug is secure, he turns on me. Meeting's over. You're riding with me to Phoenix. Darned if he'll order me around like the hired help. I came with the boss and we'll go back that way. His skin blazes. He pretends to be taciturn, but his emotions are clear. The managers and the receptionist's inky eyes dart between us, probably wondering who will win out in this gringo battle. After achieving simultaneous agreement not to be hotel entertainment, we migrate toward the ballroom. You're on my route to Santa Fe. He lifts his glasses and scrubs his eyes. I can't remember if bites from this bug carry any health risk. I'm embarrassed too. Guess we're both green. Let's ask Dr. Gonzalez. But everyone's disappeared to the farewell brunch. The blood-sucking insects skittering in the cup kills our appetites. Leave him a message, Fred tells me, and you're going home. A white vintage Corvair idles near the sliding door when I check out and leave a note summarizing the change of plans. Despite the brisk draft through the lobby, hot flashes prickle my skin while I whisper a sentimental adios to dozens of rustic whiskey barrels overflowing with spectacular multicolored annuals. I toss my luggage into Fred's back seat and needle him about the car. Unsafe at any speed. Ralph Nader be damned, this is my baby. Named her Ethel. At the border, an American officer glances at Fred's license and waves us through. Crossing south on Monday morning, the Mexican guard hesitated until my boss pulled out a 20 to cover both of us. La mordida, the bite. Priced to avoid a delay in inspection. Any guess when we'll get to Tucson? The interstate isn't finished and travels slow in spots. I'm flushed and faint. Nobody on the planet gets more carsick as a passenger, that's all it is. As I doze off, I discern an answer, but it doesn't register. Fists of hail strike the front windshield and rock me out of my reverie. Fred swerves over to an Ocotillo-thatched ramada protecting a concrete picnic table. Wind whips the thin green Palo Verde branches and the thicker, darker mesquites. We're close to Tubac and Presidio ruins, but today's not ideal for sightseeing. How are you doing? Although tucked off the road, the Corvair frame is light, like Nader warned, twitching with every gale gust. Through the car vents, bursts of chilly air waft my favorite bouquet of desert after a rain, but my epidermis breaks out with goosebumps and my limbs shake. Fred reaches back and unhooks the latches on the sparkling pink hard-covered suitcase. He rumples through everything, including underwear, until he discovers my bulky Irish wool sweater. Before pulling it over my head, he caresses my neck and forehead. You've got a fever and the inflammation of your left eye is expanding. No joke, my vision is narrowed, so I don't catch him reaching for my skirt before he yanks it up. Hell of a rash. I glance down at my baby's flesh upper thigh. The discolored area is extensive, round, and pearlescent red. Guess I need to brush up on bug-borne diseases. My pronouncement slips out, barely audible. He twists the ignition key and burns rubber back to the highway. We're stopping at the University of Arizona Hospital. As he carries me into the ER, my eye is swollen shut and my head vibrates like our morning after. I'm short of breath when adjusting my position on the gurney, and my heart's racing. I hate being out of the loop while Fred pulls out El Chinche and discusses it with the lab attendant. After they take blood and urine specimens and run an EKG, a compact Native American stops by. Dr. Bingham? I'm Luis Lopez, chief resident. Dr. Grinwald gave us the triatomine from your hotel. People call them kissing bugs because they bite faces. Arizona Poison Control gets more calls about them than anywhere in the country. Pima County is the hotspot. About 40% of the bugs here have Trypanosoma cruzi, which causes Chagas disease. Fred's voice is tentative. Wouldn't you feel a bite? We were, together when Nancy found them on her. Lopez is professional and doesn't remark on the personal reveal. They suck blood for half an hour if someone is a heavy sleeper or somehow impaired. Yeah, somehow impaired. Human cases are a mystery in the U.S. You'll be the first I've diagnosed if confirmed. My synapses kick back in. Protozoan parasite, squiggly little worm. Sorry, not you, Fred. The parasite. From the grim expressions, I notice neither is amused. Anyone looking at my blood smear? Lopez nods. Eye swelling is called Romagna sign. Can happen from the bug bite without T. cruzi transmission. His fingers rub my neck below the ear and I flinch. Doctors shouldn't show pain. Left superficial cervical lymph node is enlarged. He must be afraid I'm not sufficiently worried because his voice turns harsh. 10 to 40% of cases develop cardiovascular and gastrointestinal complications. Repeat bites can kill instantly from anaphylaxis. Fred plunks down, clutching my hands. Basset hound eyes, comforting. I tilt in his direction, easing the left-sided discomfort. My right eye closes to match the other one, and I drift away. Tucson, Arizona, Saturday, October 16th, 1993. Lopez reappears with a gray-haired woman trailing. I hate to start off your weekend with such bad news. Your bug has the parasite and you have Chagas. Fred's massive dome jerks up. Huddled at the bedside all night, what a sweetheart. I locate Lopez with my operational eye. Transmitted through the bite? Grosser than that. The bug contaminates bite wounds or conjunctiva of the eyes with its feces. The older lady steps forward. I'm Edith Nichols with the Arizona Sonora Desert Museum. We want to compare with Sonora our Pima County insects and animal hosts, like armadillos, opossums, or wood rats. Did you spy any of those species on the hotel grounds? Your point? Fred is rude and impatient. What else is new? Our bugs are springtime, warmer temps, drier. But the weather's been similar this month, unusually hot. We research climate change on species and want to be in sync with President Clinton's climate action plan. Fred's weight shifts. He emanates intimidating vibes. Ms. Nichols glances at her watch and reaches out to him. Here's my card. After her exit, Lopez reviews my chart. You're a big deal. Scientists are fascinated. I'll handle the museum. Despite the disheveled uniform, Fred maintains his no-nonsense CDC persona. What's the treatment plan? Dr. Bingham has some early anomalies, including sinus tachycardia. A cardiologist is coming to consult. We'll start nifurtimox for 90 days. Not FDA approved, but we have no risk-free options. He hands me his Xerox. Medication side effects include depression, insomnia, and memory loss. Take this seriously. Chronic neurologic and cardiac complications can show up in 20 years and be fatal. 10,000 deaths a year worldwide, that's the estimate. He scrutinizes Fred. One more thing. Then the black eyes pin me. I could order a pregnancy test. Fetal transmission can cause microencephaly or death. Shit. If Chinche isn't a Spanish swear word, it should be. I'm a semi-good Catholic girl and responsible doc. We used protection, didn't we?
That was Dr. Millicent Eidson, a.k.a. Dr. Maya Maguire, reading her short story, El Chinche. You can find Millicent and Maya on the web at drmayamaguire.com. She's also on Facebook as Eidson Millicent and on Instagram as Dr. Maya Maguire, and the details are in the show notes. Thank you so much for being on our show today, Dr. Millie.
Laurie, thanks so much. I hope your fans enjoy checking out the MayaVerse on the website, and if they're interested, then delving into some of the short stories or the novels and learning more and being excited by these fascinating and mysterious diseases.
And certainly something different that we don't read about every day. So I commend you for that. Great job. Okay, thank you again.
Thank you.
In our AuthorXtra segment, we give a shout out to Sandy Wright, an award-winning author of paranormal and romantic suspense novels, poetry, and short fiction. A journalism major, she is also a second-degree Wiccan high priestess in the Phoenix, Arizona area. Her first paranormal suspense novel is Song of the Ancients, set in the magical red rocks of Sedona, Arizona. She's working on Stones of the Ancients to add to the series. She's also written Crescent Moon Crossing, a timely mystery suspense set in the southern border of Arizona, with a plotline that includes migrants attempting to cross from Mexico and the dire challenges they face. If you're looking for a unique bit of spell work, check out her website where you can find Book of Shadows with incantations such as to call forth your soulmate. And she also details 13 herbs for magic, including lavender, an ingredient of love spells. Its scent is said to attract men. One of her black cats, Shadow Moon, recently crossed the Rainbow Bridge at age 17, but will live on as a character in her first book. Check her out at writersandy.com. Don't miss episode number 28, when I'll read some short crime fiction stories. And then author Alex Kenna will be along on episode number 29 to talk about her debut novel that is a finalist for the Seamus Award. Then on episode 30, we'll talk to Betty Webb about her new Lost in Paris novel. If you're listening on the podcast platform of your choice, please subscribe and leave a review or provide us with feedback. If you're on YouTube at Read Laurie Fagen, please subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and click on the bell to be notified when a new episode has been released. And for some freebies, check out our Patreon page at Murder in the Air Mystery Theater. For more information, you can visit readlauriefagen.com. Thanks so much for listening, and come back again, where you'll always find murder in the air.